Welcome to the Orca. It's been 6 months since the new mayor and city council were elected in the city of Vancouver. That's more than long enough for them to find both their offices and the washrooms at City Hall, and to start building or alienating political alliances and to begin to shape city policy. But how is this council really doing? Is this new mixed council with 4 different political parties represented, is it working? George Affleck would know. He's the president and the CEO of CLUFF Communications, a former 2-term Vancouver City Councillor. He also co-hosts the very popular Orca podcast, Unspun with Jody Vance. And George is with us here in the Orca studios today. Hello there.
Hey, how's it going?
Right off the top. So what do you think?
Well, it's give the people what they want, I guess. You talked about in your intro the mixed council. There are 5 kind of parties because we have Kennedy, who doesn't represent a party, but we all know he's NDP. So you have 5 parties now represented on a council with 11 people. So it's, in my mind, somewhat chaotic, but because they are literally, when you watch them negotiating on the floor of the chamber, motions and all sorts of reports and stuff. So it's quite fascinating to watch. Whether it's productive or not, I don't know.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start with the mayor, Kennedy Stewart, skilled politician, an academic, but this is his first crack at municipal politics, and it's his first chance to be in the big chair, to be the boss. How's he doing?
He's kind of trapped in a situation where he has to be friendly to everybody, otherwise he can't get anything he wants done. And if you look at the voting pattern, it's very unpredictable. So you need those 6 votes. Depending on what the issue is, you got to lobby, you got to figure it out, you got to negotiate. And so he's doing a lot of that. He's befriending every one of them as much as he can. There's some you can't.
That's politics.
That's politics, but it's unusual in our last 10 years of experience with Vision Vancouver, because that's not how they operated. But in fact, it's generally how City Council has operated in Vancouver, contrary to popular belief.
So let's look at the council. It is diverse. There are 5 members of the NPA, 3 Greens, 1 COPE, 1 City, which is a new party. The NPA are sort of have the balance of power on council, but not really. They only need 1 vote to swing things their way. How's it going?
Yeah, the 5 members of NPA, and as a reminder to people, NPA stands for Nonpartisan Association.
Exactly.
So if you look at the alignment of those 5 people, and you look back historically, like guys like Gordon Price versus, say, George Puhle, you have people from the left and the right, and you have something similar going on now with these 5 people. They're not aligned in the way that perhaps I was with Elizabeth and Melissa, and we were aligned just as human beings on most issues. And it didn't take a lot of negotiation and discussion and debate between us, because we agreed on most things. In this case, these 5 people don't agree on everything clearly, because they're voting against each other on a regular basis. And people are surprised by that. They think, this isn't like division, would never do that. How? And then there's some people within the NPA who are going, this is crazy. They need to vote together. That's actually historically not how the NPA operated. If you look back, you would see that many times they would vote against each other. You'd see Gord Price going against George Puhle big time in the chamber, going at it full on issues of importance. And I think the way it used to work, and maybe that's the way it's working now, and whether it's working or not working is the big issue. Within a caucus, and a municipal caucus, and you have this kind of diversity, I think the NPA is facing this dilemma, and I think it's a good thing in some ways to go, okay, let's read the room. Okay, I've got 5, there's 5 of us. I'm going to get 3 of you. Now I have to go find 3 more votes. They have to go out and find those 3 votes. And the best case example was the tax shift for businesses, which we saw that happen. NPA split, but they got the 6 votes, and that passed.
Let's look at some of the big issues. And one of the big ones was affordability. And all parties agreed on affordability.
Yes, who doesn't agree on affordability?
Exactly. But the mayor came out and made a bold want. He wanted 85,000 units of affordable housing.
Yeah, like magic.
Well,
in fact, actually, that's a number that was already in our reports. So he was predicting a number that already existed, that I, on my, in my role, along with the rest of the councils, already put a plan for.
But George, that's a huge ask.
Well, what is affordable is always the question.
Well, I was just going to say
that. If he redefines affordable, that would be interesting.
Who sets the bar for affordable, above and below?
Exactly. That's the issue they're debating these days. It's more about defining affordability, and I think that I've always argued, what is, is it affordable or is it social? housing? Is it
Which are two
controlled?
different things.
Exactly. Affordability can, and I think Kerry Jang got in a lot of trouble when he said one day on NW, affordability is whatever you can afford. And he took a lot of heat for that because what I think he was trying to say is that it depends on the income you make. And I'm not trying to defend Kerry Jang, just so you know, but it's never going to happen. But no, he was trying to, I think what he's arguing was that if you make a lot of money, you buy something more expensive. If you don't, there should be something for everybody. And the market, not only in Vancouver, but in the region, has become a market for only people who can really have a lot of money.
But I think the mayor himself admits that 85,000 units, the city can't do that on its own.
No.
And so he's reached out to the private sector. I know he spoke to the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade recently and spoke specifically about this and saying, we need your help. How likely is that alliance to take shape?
Well, I think that just yesterday, a gift was given to Vancouver, finally, by our neighbor, Burnaby. Not that I agree with necessarily what they had passed, which was creating a situation where developers, if they tear down a rental building, they have to provide new units to those people with 20% off that price.
This is the demo eviction.
Yes, and this is a huge decision in Burnaby. This is going to scare away development like no other decision Burnaby has ever done. However, for those who do stay, which will be few, they now have this mandate. But more importantly, it takes the pressure off Vancouver, which over the last 10 years, Burnaby has gone in the negative when it comes to rental and affordable housing in its city. And that has impacted its closest neighbor, which is Vancouver. And so all these people are looking for affordable housing, can't find it in Burnaby, are trying to find it in Vancouver. Vancouver's been building thousands of units, even the time I was there. We were building, over 1,000 sort of affordable units. Many of them were this what's called Rental 100, which is kind of a weird affordability thing, but it's not social. But there was about 400 social housing units that we built. But Vancouver can't do it on its own, and Kennedy Stewart should know that. And making promises like that is like making a promise like Gregor Robertson made about solving homelessness. You just can't make promises like that because it's not actually possible in the ways that people think of what you're saying. You're saying, I'm going to build all these affordable housing units. They immediately think something that, my 20-year-old kid can afford at, $500 a month or whatever. That's just not fair to the people to make those kind of promises.
You look at the real estate market now, the Lower Mainland, and there's no question that the dynamic has changed. Sales are off. Prices are down somewhat, but not as much as a lot of experts and analysis thought they would go down. How do you see the future of housing in Vancouver and affordability?
Well, I think that we're still going to see a decline, a significant decline as things start to, I think things are just starting to cool off. I think it's going to get much worse.
They're saying today, another 2 years before housing prices go up.
Yeah, and guess what? They will go up.
Yes.
So, and anybody who's invested in their home, and I say to my kids, try to buy your home and don't do that as your lifetime investment. That's just control the place you live, so you can manage that debt and that home place. But I think that what's going to happen is with the market crashing. It's also an opportunity. What happened in Vancouver specifically, because I know it more specifically, is that it became so unaffordable for smaller developers to come and say, I'm going to buy that single family home and I'm going to turn that into a duplex or a fourplex. That's the kind of housing we need. Those are the kind of units that has been reported by staff so many times that were not only lived in, but were affordable. We all heard about the empty homes. We all heard about this foreign investment. We all heard about now the money laundering things. But the one thing that kept coming back to City Council when I was there, and I kept saying, why don't we just build more of those, was that homes that will be lived in and are affordable are townhouses, row houses, duplexes, fourplexes, and yet we did nothing.
Well, for years we built the wrong stuff.
Yes, we were encouraging tower development. You don't need to encourage tower development. The developers, you create the zoning in those areas for that, downtown obviously, some other areas, but generally what you need to encourage is these smaller guys to get in there, build, not take 5 years. A smaller developer can't sit on a $5 million piece of property for 5 years. You'll bankrupt them. So they don't come to Vancouver. They go to Chilliwack. They go to Langley. They go far away from the city when they should be in Vancouver, as opposed to seeing 1,000 single families torn down every year for the last 10 years and replaced by pretty much 1,000 single family homes. Those should have been replaced by duplexes, fourplexes, townhouses, row houses, but they weren't because Vision Vancouver is so focused on tower development, so focused on this Rental 100 program, which was focused on rental tower developments, and they lost track of what was really truly affordable and would be lived in, and didn't build those.
Our time is short, so I want to change direction. Final question. Jody Wilson-Raybould, federal politician, but nonetheless from the city of Vancouver, from Vancouver Granville. What are your thoughts on her decision to run as an independent?
Well, it's not a shock. I'm trying to think of where did I put it publicly, but I did say that she wouldn't run with the Greens, because how could she run with another party when she clearly had said parties suck? So, I mean, it would be hypocritical of her. So she had to run it as an independent or not run at all. I don't think she's going to win that riding. I think she's handing the Conservatives a victory in that riding. That riding is a swing riding. It's a very unique riding. It's half of it Shaughnessy, the other half is kind of Main Street. This is a very unique riding, and I don't sense that those Shaughnessy people will show up for her. I think they'll look to the Conservatives, as they always have.
Yeah, win or lose, she's going to have a huge impact on the Liberal fortunes in that riding.
Yeah, and I think she will have. She's not only in that riding, she's basically decimated the Liberal Party in BC. I would say that. I would say like Ken Hardy. There's other Liberals. I think Hetty will be fine as usual, but she might be the only one left, and maybe Joyce. But even Joyce, I think, is vulnerable in that riding. It's a very strange riding, Point Grey. It's that's where David Eby is, NDP. So it could go anywhere. It could go NDP. It could go Green. I think that she has basically those seats in BC. She's made very, very, very vulnerable for the Liberal Party
of
Canada.
It's going to be an interesting campaign, which starts pretty soon because the House rises this week, and then it's the barbecue circuit and the campaign.
My favorite time of the year.
George Affleck, thank you so much for joining us
Thanks.
today.